Day 4 of the Power Skills Masterclass. And today we're going to be talking about leadership, connection, and relationship building. All right. So I want to, people get leadership wrong so often. In fact, one of the things that I love to talk about when it comes to leadership is that leadership is not necessarily about leading people. It's about influencing them. However, in order to influence them, you first need to connect with them. All right, we're going to dive into that. But first, I'm Angela W. Stillwell, the creator, founder, and CEO of Untapped Strengths. And what we do is work with individuals to transform them into the top 1% of leaders and teams into powerhouses. And a big part of what we do is around this leadership piece, obviously, and connection building and figuring out what's going on in your head that's keeping you from being that top 1%. All right, so back to this definition of leadership. In creating leadership and creating that connection so that you can actually influence people, there's 3 different things. And so often, we're hearing these days and we see these days with different influencers, whether it is social media influencers or celebrity influencers or whatever that looks like. And you guys, that is not leadership. That's just people who have been able to gain an audience and directing them to purchase certain things or behave certain ways. What I'm talking about is truly getting in and connecting and influencing people to better themselves. In fact, Sheryl Sandberg has a quote, and I'm going to read this. It says, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence, and it lasts in your absence." Leadership is about making people better as a result of your presence, and it lasts in your absence. So how do you go about doing this? Well, I believe there are 3 steps. The first is around actually building that connection. So how do you do that? So when you're building that connection, there's a story that about a Green Beret in Afghanistan. This is back at the beginning of that conflict and what was happening. And this particular Green Beret went into one of the villages, and the goal was to get that village to work with the Green Berets, right? And he became so close to the tribal leader in that village that tribal leader actually adopted him as a son. Now, there's a whole lot more to that story, but I don't think you can get any more connected to someone than that. Okay. And if you want more information about that, you can message me or put it in the comments, and I'll be happy to send you some more information on who that was, and you can study up on them. But the first step, all right, connection. The second is perfect imperfection. Guys, this is about vulnerability. Yes, authenticity is important, and I believe that you can be authentic without being vulnerable. Perfect imperfection is showing the authenticity and that vulnerability. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about being vulnerable with everyone about everything and sharing all of the dirty laundry and all of that kind of stuff. That is not what I'm talking about. Sigmund Freud said something like, it is through your vulnerability that you find your strength. It is through your vulnerability that you find your strength. I'm not talking about weakness. I am talking about actually using your vulnerability as a strength. And the way that you do that is actually the next step, resurrection. So you've got connection, perfect imperfection, where you're embracing your vulnerability, and then resurrection. Now, what am I talking about with resurrection? I am talking about where you resurrect stories, whether it's stories of your life or stories of your clients' lives or stories of someone else's life, like the Green Beret that I was talking about, that will connect with your audience, whether your audience is, where you're standing on stage and speaking to thousands of people, or whether you're doing something virtual like this, or whether you are in a small, intimate environment or a one-on-one conversation. It doesn't matter. All right. It doesn't matter. So when you actually resurrect these stories and you share them with people, people see themselves in the stories. Okay. So connection, perfect imperfection, and resurrection. That's how you build connection and influence and step into your leadership. I could end on that and then we'd be done. But we're not going to stop there, because I want to share with you some of the common challenges and some of the ways that you can overcome those common challenges and more. You ready? Let's dive in. All right. So some of the common challenges, whether you're talking about teams or families or businesses, right? When you are working on leadership and relationship building and connection creation, then you deal with things like lack of trust, unproductive conflict, holding back information, low engagement, not aligned, lack of cohesion and collaboration, lack of honesty and transparency, lack of willingness to learn and grow. Any of you ever experienced any of that? I mean, give me a hallelujah or an amen or a hands up or a thumbs up or something like that. Because look, we have all been in situations where these things are going on. We've all been there. So when I'm doing this in workshop style, say I'm working with organizations and I go in and I do this workshop style, we really dig into what are some of the things that are going on in that work environment. When I'm doing it coaching style, one-on-one or in small group coaching, I have people uncover where these things are happening so that we can dig in deeper. Because I could stand here and talk about all kinds of scenarios, right? But what is happening for you? What I'd love for you to do as I'm going through these today, if you're watching it live, then come back and watch the replay and take some notes, right? But just jot down some areas where these things are coming up for you so that you can actually take what we're talking about today and go and implement it, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your community, whether it's with your team, whether it's with your department, okay? Really lean in on this. And also, what's coming up? I know I keep saying this. What's coming up? What is the meaning that you are giving to what I'm saying today? What are your internal voices saying about what I'm saying today? Okay. Really be curious around that, because that's where the differentiator is going to come in. Yes, you can work on these power skills. And if you're not working on those thoughts, really doesn't matter if you're working on the power skills, because you're going to hit a certain threshold and you're going to fall back. Okay. You're going to hit a certain threshold and you're going to fall back. So, how to overcome these common challenges. Looking at my notes. All right. The first one, in building connection, what's the meaning that you're giving to whatever is happening, right? How the people are behaving, what is going good, what's going bad, what is the meaning that you're giving to it? Get really clear on that. Find out what the meaning is that others are giving to it. Encourage that open dialogue. Allow people to share, right? And one thing that that drives me crazy, I actually was in a situation like this not long ago, and someone got upset with me because of something that I did. They judged the action versus the intention. And what we do is when we're looking at others, we judge their action. And when we look at ourselves, we judge our intention. What if you always assumed positive intention? What if, rather than jumping to that judgment of the action, you had a conversation around what was the intention? Assuming positive intention, and then asking what really was the intention? so that then you could come to more of a maybe calm resolution, right? So often we get triggered by things, and listen, that's okay. It's based on beliefs and meanings that we give to things. So that's why I keep saying be curious. We jump to these conclusions based on our own meanings. So find out, what was their intention. Assume positive intention. You guys, that will make such a big difference in conflict and conflict resolution. Okay. All right. Next, don't make it about the individual, make it about the situation. What actually happened? Don't use you language. You did this, you did that. Instead, if you're going to speak about it from a person standpoint, use language like, I feel as if such and such happened. Not, I feel as if you did XYZ. That's still you language. Okay. I feel as if the situation wasn't overly thought about before action was taken. Okay, that's cumbersome verbiage, but you get what I'm saying, right? So making sure that you're using I language rather than you language, and using active listening to respond versus react, listening to understand versus listening to reply. Okay. Big difference. Big difference. Active listening is such an important skill, and it's something that we all get to practice. Listen, I teach this stuff. I coach on this stuff. I train on this stuff. I speak about it, and still I get to practice it. I still get to practice it because believe me, we're human, we're fallible. Things happen, right? We get stressed, we get under deadlines, and we shift our way of being around things. So I still get to practice it. So do you. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just go, oh, look at there. Look what I did. Get curious about it and then go on, right? All right. Holding back info. Historically, organizations have been notorious for holding back info from their employees. It also happens in intimate relationships. It also happens in families. It also happens in all sorts of scenarios, right? What if instead of holding back info, you shared as much info as you possibly and legally can, as soon as you can, in a way that the other people can receive? What if that happened? You think maybe you might build rapport, you might build trust, you might build loyalty? Absolutely, you would. So I want you the studies are showing that when you do that, it does build loyalty. It does build trust. So that's not just saying that maybe it will happen. There have actually been studies. So think about, where can you be more open in your sharing? And again, you guys, don't think I'm only talking about business. These are things that you get to use in every relationship in your life. Your intimate relationships, your relationships with your children, your relationships with your parents, your community, your neighbors, your church, and yes, business. Okay. All right. Low engagement. When you have low engagement, how can you get others involved in decision making? How can you get others involved in goal setting? When you have low engagement, there's usually a lack of collaboration, and it's just someone at the top is just drilling down and telling people what to do. And today we hear a lot about quiet quitting And I can't remember some of the other terms that are being used right now, but quiet quitting is a result of low engagement. It's a result of low engagement. How can you bring these people in? How can you make them part of what's happened? And look, that quiet quitting, yes, it's being used in business, but guess what? It happens. It happens in relationships too. If you've ever had a relationship go sideways, if you've ever been through a divorce, I have. I've been through a divorce. There's probably quiet quitting before the actual divorce, before the actual breakup. There's probably at least one of the people who has quit quietly before the breakup. So whether you're talking about a business situation or a personal situation or whatever, know that the way to get people engaged is to have mutual expectations set, have people be part of the decision making and the collaboration, the brainstorming. And when you're doing that, no idea is a bad idea. Just let people throw out information, let people throw out suggestions, and then you can decide together, does this make sense based on where we're going? Does this make sense based on XYZ? Right? This isn't about judging what's being thrown out. This is about allowing for people to come up with ideas. Okay. All right. When you're in a situation where things are not aligned, you get to work on clarity of goals, clarity of vision. You get to share what those goals and visions are in a way that everyone can embrace it, in a way that it is clear to everyone that's involved. Look, in copywriting, they talk about, in copywriting, when I'm talking about copywriting, I'm talking about copy that is used in advertising and that sort of thing, right? In copywriting, they talk about writing at, like a fourth grade level, fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe seventh grade level, depending on what it is that you are advertising or promoting or whatever. And the reason for that is that when you get above that level, people check out, right? People have to start thinking. And it's not that people can't think, they can. However, we are bombarded with information every freaking day. Studies are showing that we get hit with more than like 30,000 ideas a day, 30,000 suggested ideas a day, 30,000 advertisements a day, social media, radio, billboards, whatever that might look like, right? Versus maybe like 30 years ago, it was less than 3,000 a day, right? Our brains are on overload. So you get to make sure that you are speaking from a place that people can actually receive it. Our focus is less than a goldfish right now. Less than a goldfish. A goldfish can focus longer than most adults. No joke. That's kind of scary. So being able to simplify, clarify is golden for everyone. All right. All right. Cohesion and collaboration. Celebrate together. The other day I was talking about using humor, right? Humor is great when you're celebrating. Humor is great when you're looking at collaboration and cohesion, because humor allows people to laugh and get good neurochemicals flowing through the body. So in all of your relationships, where can you use humor more? Where can you laugh more? Where can you bring in more joy? So important. The world needs more joy. I can't think of a single person who doesn't need more joy, who doesn't need more laughter. It actually creates within your body an ability to receive even more because it reduces stress. Increased stress causes you not to be able to think clearly, not to be able to receive, puts up walls. However, when you can reduce that stress, humor reduces stress, then you allow for more ebb and flow. Okay. All right. Lack of honesty and transparency. This is pretty self-explanatory. When you do it, it allows your people, when you are more transparent, and I kind of talked about this a minute ago, when you are more transparent, it allows your people, whether this is family, whether this is a team, whoever, whatever situation you're talking about, when you allow for more transparency, don't hold stuff in, actually communicate, right? When you're holding stuff in, all you're doing is putting up walls and shutting people down and not allowing for dialogue. That's a great way to kill relationships. And if you find yourself doing it, where do you get to? Tear down those walls, open up dialogue, share authentically, vulnerably, in a way that is not about blame, shame, or guilt, right? Of you or them, but comes from a place of understanding and clarity, right? All right. Unwillingness to learn and grow. How can you be more open for you and your team or your family or your community to learn and grow? You guys, if you're not learning and growing, you are dying. And we're all dying. Let's don't speed up the process. We're all dying. Let's don't speed up the process. Okay? We all want to get to heaven. We just don't want to go right now. When you have an unwillingness to learn and grow, you are speeding up that process. Yeah, you're speeding up the process. So let's talk about new ways to approach leadership. You know, the old way was top down, and I'm going to tell you what to do, and you have one job to do and only one job, and you get the picture. In today's environment, it looks very different. We operate differently. We have been programmed to believe and expect differently based on how the world functions these days. So the first thing is jointly determining goals and vision. How can you bring in other people? Again, whether we're talking personal relationships, community relationships, business, whatever, how can you bring in other people to help come up with, to help determine goals and vision, right? And by the way, not everybody's going to believe in your goals and vision. They're just not. So finding people who can help you create goals and vision that believe in you, super important. And I don't care, again, what relationship we're talking about, if this is familial or if it is business or what it is. You get to find people who believe in you and have them, incorporate them to help you develop your goals and vision. All right. Broad skills and knowledge. Look, there's no more coming in and that's not in my job title. What? That rarely is there something that operates like that. In manufacturing, yes, but in most stuff anymore, it's just not like that. If you're in sales, if you're in management, if you're in whatever it looks like, right? Not my job. Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, because this is about team. Same thing in families. Well, that's a man's role, or that's a woman's role, or that's a kid's role, or whatever. No, it's everybody's role. Let's figure out how to best make this work for everybody. Okay. All right. Cross training, kind of the same thing. Broad skills and knowledge. Cross training. How can you set your whole team up to win. You can do cross training so that people can take time out, right? Same thing happens in a family situation. Maybe one of the people travels a lot, and maybe that person is the one who does all of the finances or something like that. How can you help them be better prepared? In fact, let me tell you, when years ago I owned a financial planning practice, and I was a CFP and all of that, and it's pretty startling how few spouses, particularly women are more apt now than they used to be to know more about it, but it's still, the percentages are not where they need to be. How many women did not know about what was going on from a financial standpoint in the family, or vice versa, right? The spouse doesn't know. That's not acceptable. If anything happens to that person, in fact, some of this just recently happened. I went through a situation with someone earlier this year where they lost their spouse and things weren't in place. And it's a nightmare. Same thing happens in an office environment. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. What if you go out sick? What if you want to go on vacation? Who can cover the things that you do? Or can something be postponed and let others step in until you get back? Have a plan for that, right? All right. Info shared freely and ongoing. Again, I said that builds trust and loyalty. Allow for that two-way dialogue of building, of sharing freely and ongoing sharing, right? When you allow for both sides of the equation to share, then you've developed your relationship into a whole new level. When you're judging when someone shares, you're shutting them down. You just are. You're shutting them down. When you look at continuous learning and growth, one of the things that drives me crazy is when people say, I want to get back to status quo. What? No, you do not. You do not want to get back to status quo. Let me tell you what status quo is. That is stagnation. There really is no such thing as status quo. People like to think that there is. It's just like people saying, look, can we get back to our norm? The norm before everything shut down in the world? We're never getting back to that. We're not going back there. Our world is very different now than what it was. Very different on so many levels. It's unimaginable in some cases. So status quo is stagnation. And what happens in a stagnant pool of water? Nothing. Death. Death happens in a stagnant pool of water. Mosquitoes. But if anything alive gets in that stagnant pool of water, it dies because of all the nasty bacteria. Okay? You're not looking for status quo. You're not looking for stagnation. You're looking for growth and change. It's just most of us only want what we want from a growth or change standpoint. We think we want things to be the same. We want them to be familiar. We want them to be comfortable, right? Anything outside of that familiar and comfortable, your brain is going to see as danger. And I know I have said it over and over and over during this series already, and we're only on day 4. But your brain is not designed for success or thriving in any situation. Personal relationships, business relationships, whatever. It's not designed for success or thriving. It is designed for survival. How can I keep things as safe and comfortable and familiar as possible? Because anything outside of that is like big saber-toothed tigers or big ghouly monsters or something coming after me. That's the way your brain thinks about it. And your brain starts screaming all kinds of things about, no, you can't do that. And you're not ready to do that. And da 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 da, whatever the story is in your head. Okay. That's what that's about. I'm not going to go any deeper than that from the science standpoint. Measured risk, taking encouraged and supported risks, right? Allows for outside the box thinking. It's how creativity comes about. Allowing people to take risks. Calculated risk, not like ridiculous risks, but allowing that brings in creativity. It brings in new ideas, outside the box thinking. That's how improvements are made, right? And speaking of improvements, what about empowering to improve methods, systems, and processes? Just because you've always done it like that doesn't mean you should always do it like that. There may be someone around you that knows how to do it better. Allow them to look at it and work on it. Okay? Now, you can set parameters around what that looks like and how that looks and when that looks and blah, 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 blah. Just know that when you allow for someone who is very good at process and system improvement to do that, it just enhances for everyone. Okay. All right. I want to talk now about the stages of relationship development or the stages of relationship building, in whether it is, again, today I'm talking about home life, business life, community life, etc. Right? So the first stage is called norming. And this is where everything is new. People are just getting to know each other. You're just beginning to maybe build a little bit of trust, right? Sometimes it's like the googly eyes and that kind of stuff. You haven't really gotten into the nitty-gritty yet. You're still at a very much surface level, right? The second stage is storming. Now you have identified normalities, right? You know each other, you're brainstorming together, you're clarifying expectations. You are during this storming situation, storming stage. One of the things that when I first got out of undergrad school, I went to work for AT&T. And one of the things that we did with our clients was called mutual expectations meetings. And during those meetings, we would sit down with clients and do these big brainstorming sessions on what our mutual expectations were. How could we be most efficient? How could we be most effective? How would everybody be as happy and on the same bus and path as possible to get to the goals that we all had, right? What if you did something like that with whatever team, business, personal, whatever? What if you did something like those that type of thing, a mutual expectation meeting, right? What that does is you develop trust, you identify resources. So during the storming, you're starting to move a little quicker. You've got it's called storming for a reason, right? Brainstorming. Things are during storms, things start shifting, don't they? Think about when a hurricane comes through. Are there changes with a hurricane? Stuff gets wiped out, stuff gets washed in, right? So during the storming stage, everything is evolving. And then the next stage is norming. Norming, things are flowing. You're starting to, finish each other's sentences. You've got a lot of similarities. You have base level expectations set now, common goals and purposes, right? So things are just kind of have a norm now, right? Kind of know what's going to happen. Things are going a little smoother. And then you get to the performing stage. Now you are a high-performing team. You really can finish each other's sentences. You really are meeting all of the expectations and exceeding the goals. You are doing everything top-notch. Here's the issue. That usually doesn't last very long. Usually there's someone else new that comes along. A situation changes, the economy changes, something happens that makes a shift. And guess what? You start back over again at the very beginning with the forming. Now, maybe you move through those stages quicker, right, than you did the first time. You're always going to go through the forming, storming, norming, performing, forming, storming, norming, performing, and understand that there are certain things that are happening in each of those scenarios, right? It's okay. It's normal. Just keep in mind that those are some of the things that are going to be going on. All right. So let's talk real quick about some relationship tips. Listen, these are going to sound simple, and they are. However, they are not necessarily easy. They're just not. Look, if this stuff was easy, we'd all be doing it. Everybody would do it. Nobody would need training on it. Things would be going smoothly. Things would be great. And yet, look around. Life isn't like that. So yes, these are going to sound simple, and yet it's going to take some work. Okay. So the first tip is to be fair. All right. So to be fair, to get along better, what does that even look like? How do you even do that? What does fair mean to one person versus another person? See, sounds simple because your idea of fair, you know what your idea of fair is. What is the other person's idea of fair? There's so much that goes into this. I do DISC assessments with clients, both individually and in my corporate trainings. So, and I also work with Colby training. So when you look at different personality assessments, some of them are based on cognitive level. Some Colby is on cognitive level. People operate differently based on their personality and their inherent way of being. They just do. All right. So DISC, D-I-S-C, if you looked at my DISC profile, I am a very high D, a very high I, a very low S, and a very low C. I don't like rules and regulations. I am not the best person for support. I'm great at bottom line. I'm great at seeing the vision. I'm great at driving things. I'm great at going, this is awesome, inspirational, right? Those are not for everyone. If I try to be fair with someone who is a high S, I get to style flex. Because if I come in with my high D and I try to be what I consider fair with someone who is a high S, they're going to think that I am being aggressive. Okay. So we get to flex what this looks like based on the scenario that we're in. What is our spouse like? What are our kids like? What is the team that you have like? What are the people who report to you? What are the people that you're reporting to? When you are working in these scenarios and you're trying to be fair, fair is going to look very different from person to person. So keep that in mind. The second relationship tip, don't hold back. You get to have clear expectations. You get to be timely, have timely and effective feedback. Look, timely and effective feedback is very different than what it used to be. Used to, and in some corporations, they're still doing this. In some organizations, they're still doing this. If you're doing this in your organization, please change it. Please change it. Listen up. Listen up. Timely and effective feedback means like right now, not once a year, not when you're angry, not when things go sideways. Right now, give timely and effective feedback. If somebody does something right, acknowledge they're being right. If somebody does something well, acknowledge them doing it well. If somebody does something wrong, then have a conversation about what went wrong. Don't wait until later. You guys, people just don't operate like that anymore. They don't operate with this once a year feedback, or this only when this happens do I get feedback. If the only time you come at me is when you're angry, guess what? If the only time that you give me feedback is when you're angry, guess what? I'm going to be on the defensive. I'm going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. What the heck just happened? Why are you attacking me? If I were a high S, I'm a high D, so I'm probably going to come back swinging. Know who you're talking to, right? So don't hold back. Do timely and effective feedback. Be clear. Offer clarity, right? Clear expectations. All right, be authentic and bold. This isn't about running over people, though. This isn't about, this is just how I am. No. You get to be authentic and bold, which means being assertive. There's a big difference in being assertive and being aggressive. Big difference. And part of that is based on whoever it is that you're speaking with, right? Because if again, we'll go back to me being a high D, speaking to someone who's a high S. If as a high D, I come in and I am authentic and bold, I am going to run them over. I get to be authentic and bold in a way that they can receive it. Okay. So you, again, style flex, right? Call people out and do it in a way that they can receive it. Just like I was talking about, when someone does something wrong, let them know and do it in a way that they can receive it. If someone is a tender-hearted person and they're a high support person, you get to be a lot more delicate than if someone is like me, who's, very focused, bottom line decision maker, right? You can come at me with bullet points and I need this like right now and et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't bother me. And I will share my opinion with you. Not everyone's like that though. So you get to know what bold and authentic looks like and feels like to the person that you're being bold and authentic with, right? All right. So don't accept excuses. Again, that personality thing comes into play. Okay. Practice professionalism. What the heck does that even mean? Managing emotions, but don't be a robot. All right. Managing emotions, but don't be a robot. I'm not talking about managing your emotions in such a way that you put up so many walls that people can't see who you are. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for shutting people down. That is a recipe for keeping people at bay and keeping your hurt within you. Look, people think that if they manage their emotions and they don't allow things to come up and bubble up, and if I just keep things squashed, that it's going to be okay. It's going to be better. Let me tell you something. What happens is that those emotions, those things just start reverberating inside that box that you have around yourself. It just makes it worse. It makes the echo louder. It makes it continue longer. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Right? Yeah. And if you are about to lose your ish, you get to say, hold on, excuse me, I'm going to need to take a moment with this. And you exit left so that you can regroup and then come back. please practice this in all of your relationships. And if you're the person that is having a conversation with the person who is just about to lose their ish and they say, you know what, I need a moment, give them the moment. Give them the time that they need so that they can regroup and come back and have a dialogue. Don't chase them down the hallway going, but you said, or but I need you to. No. Give the space. Let the person collect their ish and come back. Okay. All right. Let's see. Professional demeanor, especially when under pressure. Same thing. All right. Leadership can look different in various scenarios. And, different environments, leadership looks different. When you are influencing people, when you're including various personalities, all of these things, there is no one size fits all with leadership, with building connection, with relationship building. There's so much more that goes into it. So we've really only scratched the surface today. What I'd love for you to do is really think about what we've talked about today. What is coming up for you? I said this at the beginning. Really pay attention to what are the thoughts that you're having? What is the meaning that you're giving to what I'm saying? Right? What's coming up for you? Take note of that, because that's where the difference is going to be made. All right. So really pay attention. You have an opportunity to really shift your leadership and the leadership of the people around you. And again, I'm not talking about just business. I am talking about everything, all of your relationships. You guys, I can't tell you how much my life shifted in every single area once I started really digging into this stuff. Once I really became aware of my thoughts and my beliefs and the meaning that I gave to things, and made decisions about, do I want that to still be my truth or not? If I don't want that to still be my truth, what do I want my truth to be? So then what work might I need to do to get to that place? And there's a whole process for that. I'm not going to get into that today. Just know that this curiosity around what's coming up, really paying attention to the thoughts, really acknowledging what are the exact words that you're saying to yourself is huge around all of this. That's a big, big, big first step. It's probably the first 10 steps when you really get down to it. So my encouragement to you is, like on day one, I talked about mindset. I got into some of this. It's so important in every step that we're talking about, every day that we dig into this. It's important to remember how the mindset piece plays into this. Okay. All right. So real quick, if any of this is something that, is hitting you really deeply and you want to dig in a little bit more and see how it might benefit you to dig deeper, right? You can do a connection call with me. These are free, just fun 30-minute calls. I get to know you, you get to know me, and I want to hear what's going on with you. What is it how is this series impacting you? What's coming up for you? What are your goals? And then I'll help you set up what your next best step is. This isn't about necessarily joining one of my programs. This is about helping you figure out what is your best next step, right? Because everybody's best next step is going to be different. It's not about stepping into a particular program or anything like that. It's what will work best for you based on your scenario. So if you would love to do a connection call, you can do a couple of things. You can put it in the comments that you would love to do that, or you can send me a DM, or you can go to the link that's on the screen, the Linktree link that's on the screen, and you can click on the schedule a call button. Would love to have that 30-minute conversation with you. And we're not going to talk about any kind of products or anything like that unless they're your products. and how you might be able to use them to position and excuse me. Whoa, I don't have any water here with me. Not the best time to be choking, right? I'm getting all choked up about this. All right. So if you would love to do that, you can go to the link tree, linktree.com/AW Stillwell, linktr.ee/AW Stillwell. I look forward to having those calls. I love connection calls with people. I love them. I love getting to know new people and really learning about what's important to you, what your goals are, what your visions are, and helping you uncover what's been keeping you stuck, right? Helping you uncover what that best next step is for you. All right. So either comment below or send me a DM on whatever your favorite platform is. You can go to Instagram, or you can send me a DM on LinkedIn or Facebook, or put a comment on YouTube, whatever. All good, right? Send me a message of some sort and let's get that scheduled. Okay. If you send a message, we'll get you the link, and or you can go directly to the link tree and get it scheduled based on your calendar straight away. All right. All right, you guys, tomorrow, day 5. Can't wait to see you. I have just been loving spending this time with you all this week. And I really look forward to the next few days. And remember, there's going to be a couple of Q&A sessions. So if there are questions that you have about any of this, let me know what those are. And you can put it in the comments, or you can send a DM again with your questions. And I look forward to seeing those and sharing some of the best answers to the questions that you have coming up. And all right, that's it for today. I will see you tomorrow at noon for day 5. Thank you so much and have a great evening. See ya.